SiriusXM's The Dean Obeidallah Show. What a panel. I'm privileged. I'm blessed. Thank you both. Dean, let's start with you. I want you to listen to Tulsi Gabbard on CNN this morning talking about her experience with Vice President Harris and the upcoming debate that will happen between her and Donald Trump. Take a listen.
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris has a lot of experience. She is not to be underestimated. If I can be helpful to President Trump in any way, it really is just in sharing the experience that I had with her on that debate stage in 2020, and frankly, helping to point out some ways that Kamala Harris has already shown that she is trying to move away from her record, move away from her positions, and how that contradicts the positions and statements that she is making now that she is the Democratic nominee.
Dean, I thought this was kind of interesting because what she's emphasizing there is that Harris is a flip-flopper as opposed to just saying she's a liberal. What did you make of Tulsi Gabbard's answer to that question there?
First of all, the Sam Stein, it's nice to be on here. Thank you very much. Second of all, the idea, first, can we take a step back? The idea that Trump is going to do some homework and preparation to the debate and listen to Tulsi Gabbard is hilarious. Thank you, Tulsi, for the laugh right there. Secondly, I watched a clip of Vice President Harris with Tulsi Gabbard. She wasn't vice president then in 2020, destroy Tulsi Gabbard. So I'm not sure what tip she's going to give her. But flip-flopping, you're right. Look at Donald Trump on abortion by the hour. He used to be pro-choice, and he's pro-life. Yeah. He's proud. He said, I got rid of Roe v. Wade. 6-week abortion ban in Florida is too much. Oh, now it's fine. Next, he'll perform an abortion at a rally. There's a huge gender gap. He's got a problem. He knows he has a problem. And so he's going to flip-flop. He's flipped out on other issues. I think Vice President Harris is doing an amazing job. Just Google Brett Kavanaugh and Vice President Harris as a senator cross-examining Kavanaugh. That's going to be coming attractions. We'll see September 10th.
April, let's avoid the imagery that Dean provided us there. Let's talk about the fallout growing over Donald Trump's photo op at Arlington National Cemetery with relatives of service members who were killed in Afghanistan. On Meet the Press this morning, GOP Senator Tom Cotton tried to lay the blame on President Biden and Vice President Harris for not being there. Take a listen.
They wanted President Trump there. They wanted to take those photos. You know who the families also invited? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Where were they? Joe Biden was sitting at a beach. Kamala Harris was sitting at her mansion in Washington, D.C. She was 4 miles away. 10 minutes. She could have gone to the cemetery and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women, but she hasn't.
A mansion being the vice president's residence in this case. Now, the White House said that neither President Biden nor Vice President Harris were actually invited to Arlington last week. Right. This has become kind of an interesting back and forth between the campaigns here. How do you see it playing out for the Trump campaign, which clearly took on a bit of water for a reported incident of a confrontation at Arlington involving members of his campaign?
First of all, my friend Sam, this is sad. Arlington National Cemetery is sacred ground, not just the fact that people are there, but those who are there are people who fought and served this nation that Donald Trump never did. Let's talk about bone spurs, right? He's always had a problem with the military. As a wife of a veteran, my husband is a retired naval officer. He takes it seriously. So does my cousin who was in the military. So does my late father who was in the Army. This is sacred. You don't mess with this. Donald Trump has never had respect for the military, number one. Let's start there. Let's talk about John McCain, no matter the party, but he's in his own party, Republican, who stayed there as a prisoner of war, who stayed. He could have gone. He stayed there for this country. Let's talk about the Gold Star families. We can go on and on. Donald Trump has a record of no respect for the military, and this is part and parcel of that line of disrespect. And as far as the White House, I am sure if they got an invitation, the president and the vice president would have gone. And she lives in the Naval Observatory. She doesn't live in a mansion.
Yeah, slight distinction there. Dean, I want to switch gears a little bit. You mentioned the issue of reproductive rights. This morning, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, he was on ABC's This Week. He addressed this new policy plan from Donald Trump, a pledge to mandate that insurance companies cover the cost of IVF treatments, which can be incredibly expensive. Watch this from Senator Graham.
I think he's just trying to show his support for IVF treatments that, you know, we've been accused, the party has, of being against birth control. We're not. We've been accused of being against IVF treatments. We're not.
But you wouldn't support this idea of mandating insurance companies to cover this, would you?
No.
I mean, you've already voted against it.
Because there's no end to that. Yeah, there's no end to that. I think a tax credit for children makes sense, means tested. And I think let's look at that concept for people trying to have a child.
Okay,
that makes some sense to me.
Dean, you mentioned it earlier. Donald Trump has been all over the map on reproductive rights. But I'm kind of curious. Will voters find these efforts to support the costs, covering costs of IVF treatments, persuasive? I mean, would they look up and say, well, maybe he's making a genuine move to the middle on this stuff? And then secondarily, Democrats could potentially call his bluff by bringing a bill to cover the cost of IVF treatment to the floor of the Senate, which they do control. I'm curious, do you think they should do something like that?
First of all, can you give me a second so I can text Jamie Harrison, the DNC, to make sure they bring that up for a vote? Because that's a great idea, Sam. Secondly, as to the first part of this, I'm looking forward to reading Donald Trump's plan on IVF treatment. I'm sure it'll come with an amazing health care plan that he promised 8 years ago that every 2 weeks we're going to get it. And Lindsey Graham has no ambitions to do anything further in politics, so he's saying, no, we're not going to do it. Other Republicans might be on board because they see the polling. They see a massive gender gap. They understand they're going to lose badly in 2024. And one of the main issues is Donald Trump saying things like, I terminated Roe v. Wade and was honored to do so. So this is coming back to haunt them. This is a minor effort. Women, it's not a political issue. I don't think Republicans get it. Nothing more personal than passing laws in state that force women against their will to carry a fetus to term. So this is not politics. Donald Trump can't lessen it. Maternal mortality's gone up in the states where those bans are. Women are literally dying because of these policies. So Donald Trump is empty. It's just pure. It's the worst form of politics. I don't think anyone really is going to believe it in the middle.
April, I know you have some thoughts on this. What do you have to say?
You know, to piggyback off that, they're not only women who are having options. Sometimes these women, as we heard at the Democratic convention, as we hear numerous times from women, they're carrying babies at their own peril sometimes, and the doctors cannot do anything because of these laws. Bottom line, Donald Trump has an archaic mentality. Women are listening and hear it, and they are going in droves toward Kamala versus Donald Trump, and this archaic idea of how he wants women to be treated, and he's worried about their bodies. The bottom line is Donald Trump has got to answer these questions at that debate. Kamala Harris is going to chew him up, as she has been very much and stood strong on reproductive rights, where Donald Trump is waffling. So we'll see what happens at that debate. But again, women are listening, and they're the largest voting bloc, and they're going to move over to Kamala because of his, his waffling on this.
Okay. Thank you, April Ryan. I just want to say, I agreed to host this show because I thought you'd be in studio with me. I'm deeply disappointed.